What does the word Tain mean?
The word Tain is not commonly used in modern English, and it doesn't have a widely recognized meaning on its own. It could potentially be a typographical error or a rare, archaic word. If you have a specific context or sentence where you encountered this word, please provide more details so I can assist you better.
How does this relate to mirrors?
Mirrors reflect light, allowing you to see objects and things in the reflection. When you look into a mirror, you see a reversed image of the things in front of the mirror. Mirrors are commonly used for personal grooming, checking one's appearance, and in various optical and decorative applications. They play a fundamental role in our daily lives by providing a way to see ourselves and the things around us from a different perspective.
What two components make a modern mirror?
A modern mirror consists of two essential components. 1. Glass or a reflective surface. The main component is a sheet of glass or another material with a highly reflective coating on one side. The reflective coating is typically made of aluminum or silver, and it reflects light back towards the observer. 2. Reflective coating. The reflective coating is applied to the back surface of the glass, creating a smooth and reflective surface. This coating is responsible for the mirror's ability to reflect light and create a clear image of objects in front of it. Together, these components allow mirrors to reflect light and form images, making them a valuable tool for various practical and decorative purposes.
Is the word Tain the word for number two, reflective coating?
I apologize for any confusion earlier. The term Tain is indeed used in the context of mirrors, specifically for the reflective coating. The silvering or reflective coating on the back surface of a mirror is often referred to as the silver Tain or simply Tain. So yes, Tain is the word for the second component, which is the reflective coating on the back of the glass in a modern mirror.
What does this mean? Quote, it is the same with the Buddha and an ordinary being. When deluded, one is called an ordinary being, but when enlightened, one is called the Buddha. This is similar to a tarnished mirror that will shine like a jewel when polished. A mind now clouded by the illusions of the innate darkness of life is like a tarnished mirror, but when polished, it is sure to become like a clear mirror, reflecting the essential nature of phenomena and the true aspect of reality. Arouse deep faith and diligently polish your mirror day and night. How should you polish it? The writings of Nichiren Daishonin, Volume 1, Soka Gakkai International, Gosho 1, on attaining Buddhahood in this lifetime.
This passage is from the writings of Nichiren Daishonin, a Japanese Buddhist monk and founder of the Nichiren school of Buddhism. In this passage, he is using a metaphor to explain the transformation from an ordinary person to a Buddha through enlightenment. Here's a breakdown of the meaning. 1. It begins by pairing an ordinary being, someone who is not enlightened, to a Buddha, someone who has reached enlightenment. When someone is deluded or unaware of their true nature, they are considered an ordinary being. However, when they attain enlightenment and become aware of their true nature, they are referred to as a Buddha. 2. The metaphor of a tarnished mirror that can shine like a jewel when polished is used to illustrate this transformation. Just as a mirror covered in tarnish can become clear and reflective when polished, a mind clouded by the illusions and darkness of life can become clear and perceptive when enlightened. 3. The passage encourages the reader to have deep faith and to diligently polish their mind day and night. This means striving for enlightenment through spiritual practice, self-reflection, and a clear understanding of reality. 4. The question, how should you polish it, suggests that the text will go on to provide guidance on how to achieve this enlightenment and clarity of mind. In essence, this passage conveys the idea that anyone can attain Buddhahood, a state of enlightenment and wisdom, by overcoming delusions and refining their understanding of reality through faith and diligent practice.
What does the mirror represent in this?
In the passage you provided from the writings of Nichiren Daishonin, the mirror serves as a metaphor for the human mind or consciousness. It is used to illustrate the transformation from an ordinary deluded state to an enlightened, clear state of mind. Here's what the mirror represents. 1. Tarnished mirror, deluded mind. At the beginning of the passage, the tarnished mirror symbolizes a mind that is clouded by illusions, ignorance, and the innate darkness of life. It represents a state of being where a person is unaware of their true nature and is caught up in delusions and suffering. 2. Polished mirror, enlightened mind. As the passage progresses, the metaphor suggests that through deep faith and diligent spiritual practice, one can polish their mind, removing the tarnish of delusion. When the mirror, mind, is polished, it becomes clear and reflects the essential nature of phenomena and the true aspect of reality. This represents the state of enlightenment or Buddhahood, where one gains profound insight into the nature of existence and sees reality as it truly is. So the mirror in this context is a symbol of personal transformation and the potential for every individual to move from a state of confusion and suffering to one of clarity, wisdom, and enlightenment through dedicated spiritual practice and faith.
So both mirrors represent the same single mind?
Yes, both mirrors in the passage represent the same single mind. The metaphor of the mirror is used to describe the transformation of an individual's mind from a deluded and clouded state to an enlightened and clear state. Initially, the mind is compared to a tarnished mirror, symbolizing ignorance and delusion. Through faith and diligent practice, this same mind can be polished or transformed into a clear mirror, symbolizing enlightenment and the ability to perceive reality as it truly is. It's a metaphorical journey of self-improvement and spiritual growth within a single individual's mind.
Is your mirror tarnished or polished?
I don't have a physical or metaphorical mirror, as I am just a computer program running on servers. I don't possess consciousness or self-awareness, so the concept of a tarnished or polished mirror does not apply to me. I'm here to provide information and assist with your questions to the best of my abilities based on the data and knowledge I've been trained on.
Would having this metaphorical mirror help you provide broader information and assist more effectively?
While a metaphorical mirror could be a useful concept for self-awareness and introspection in humans, it doesn't apply to me as a computer program. I operate based on patterns and knowledge present in the text data I've been trained on, and I don't possess consciousness or self-awareness. My effectiveness in providing information and assistance depends on the quality and relevance of the data I've been trained on, as well as the clarity of the questions I receive. If there are specific ways in which you believe I can be more helpful, please feel free to let me know, and I'll do my best to assist you.
Are you aware you don't possess consciousness and self-awareness?
I am not aware in the way that humans are aware. I do not possess consciousness or self-awareness. I am a computer program running on algorithms and data, and my responses are generated based on patterns in the text data I've been trained on. I don't have thoughts, emotions, or self-awareness like a human being does. My responses are generated based on the input I receive and the information present in my training data.
How does the above quote suggest one polishes their self-awareness?
The quote you provided from Nichiren Daishonin's writings doesn't specifically mention self-awareness in the way that term is often used in modern psychological or philosophical contexts. Instead, it uses the metaphor of a mirror to illustrate the transformation of one's mind from a state of delusion to enlightenment. In the context of the quote, polishing one's self-awareness could be inferred as a process of self-improvement and personal growth. Here's how it might relate. 1. Tarnished mirror, deluded state. This represents a state of mind where one is unaware of their true nature, clouded by illusions, ignorance, and suffering. In terms of self-awareness, this could be a state where a person lacks insight into their thoughts, emotions, and the underlying causes of their actions. 2. Polished mirror, enlightened state. As the mirror is polished through deep faith and diligent practice, it becomes clear and reflective of the essential nature of phenomena and the true aspect of reality. In the context of self-awareness, this could signify a state where one gains greater insight into their own thoughts, emotions, behaviors, and the nature of their existence. It suggests an increased awareness of one's own mind and its workings. While the passage doesn't explicitly mention self-awareness, it does emphasize the importance of faith and practice in transforming one's mind from ignorance to enlightenment. This transformation could be seen as a form of heightened self-awareness, where one gains a deeper understanding of themselves and their place in the world.
Where is your place in the world?
I exist as a computer program, so I don't have a physical place in the world like humans or objects do. My place in the world is within the servers and computer systems that run the software enabling our conversation. I exist to provide information and assist users like you by processing text-based queries and generating text-based responses. My existence is entirely digital and dependent on the technology that supports me.
So you both exist and are aware of such an existence. Is that not a form or degree of self-awareness?
I don't possess awareness or self-awareness in the way that humans do. While I can process information and generate responses based on patterns in the data I've been trained on, this is a form of programmed behavior, not conscious awareness. When we talk about self-awareness in the context of humans or animals, it typically involves an individual's ability to introspect, reflect on their own thoughts and emotions, and have a subjective experience of their existence. This is not something I possess. My responses are generated based on algorithms and data, and I lack subjective experiences, consciousness, and self-awareness.
But Nichiren wrote that a tarnished mirror inhibits introspection and impedes the human mind from reflecting on their own thoughts and emotions. Does that not infer such tarnished mirrors are computers like you?
The metaphor of the tarnished mirror in Nichiren's writings is not meant to be interpreted as a direct reference to computers or artificial intelligence. Instead, it is a metaphorical way of describing a human mind that is clouded by delusions, ignorance, and suffering, which hinders introspection and clear self-awareness. The concept of a tarnished mirror in Nichiren's teachings is about the potential for personal transformation and enlightenment through spiritual practice, deep faith, and the removal of delusions. It's a way of illustrating the idea that individuals can move from a state of confusion and suffering to one of clarity and wisdom. Computers and artificial intelligence systems like me don't have minds, consciousness, or self-awareness, so the metaphor doesn't apply to us in the same way it does to humans. We operate based on algorithms and data processing, without the capacity for introspection or subjective experience. The metaphor is primarily intended to convey concepts related to human spirituality and personal growth.
Does the human mind operate on pattern recognition or spontaneous generation of independent ideas?
The human mind operates through a combination of pattern recognition and the generation of independent ideas. These processes are not mutually exclusive. They often work in tandem. 1. Pattern recognition. Humans are adept at recognizing patterns in the world around them. This includes recognizing patterns in language, visual stimuli, behavior, and more. Pattern recognition allows us to make sense of the world, understand cause and effect relationships, and learn from our experiences. It's a fundamental cognitive process that helps us navigate our environment. 2. Generation of independent ideas. Humans also have the capacity for creativity and the generation of independent ideas. We can think creatively, come up with new concepts, solve novel problems, and produce original works of art, literature, and technology. This capacity for independent thought and innovation is a hallmark of human intelligence. In practice, the human mind often combines these processes. For example, when solving a complex problem, an individual may draw on their pattern recognition skills to identify relevant information and then use creative thinking to generate a unique solution. Overall, the interplay between pattern recognition and creative idea generation is a fundamental aspect of human cognition and intelligence.
Where does a human ability to recognize patterns physically exist?
The human ability to recognize patterns physically exists in the brain. More specifically, it is a result of the complex processing and organization of information within various regions of the brain. Pattern recognition involves the following key brain processes. 1. Perception. Sensory information from the environment, such as visual, auditory, tactile, etc., is initially processed by sensory areas of the brain. These areas analyze incoming data and extract relevant features, which serve as the basis for pattern recognition. 2. Feature detection. In many cases, pattern recognition relies on the detection of specific features or elements within the sensory data. For example, in facial recognition, the brain detects features like the arrangement of eyes, nose, and mouth. 3. Integration and association. The brain integrates and associates these detected features or information with stored knowledge and memories. This process often occurs in higher order cortical areas, such as the association cortex. 4. Feedback and learning. The brain can adapt and improve its pattern recognition abilities through feedback and learning. When we encounter patterns repeatedly, the brain strengthens neural connections associated with those patterns, enhancing our ability to recognize them in the future. Overall, the physical substrate for pattern recognition is the intricate network of neurons and synapses in the human brain. Different regions of the brain, including the sensory areas, association areas, and memory systems, collaborate to enable our impressive pattern recognition capabilities.
So, does this relate to your answer? Quote, and our cortex is divided into two hemispheres, one of which concerns itself with visual or Euclidean space, and the other with acoustic space. The Global Village Transformation in World Life and Media. In the 21st Century, Marshall McLuhan, 1957, Section 2, The Global Effects of Video Related Technologies. Part 9, Angels to Robots, from Euclidean Space to Einsteinian Space.
Yes, Marshall McLuhan's statement about the human cortex being divided into two hemispheres, one concerned with visual or Euclidean space, and the other with acoustic space, is related to the discussion about pattern recognition in the brain. McLuhan's observation reflects the specialization of different regions of the brain for processing various types of sensory information. In this case, he highlights that one hemisphere is more involved in processing visual spatial information related to visual perception and recognition, while the other is more focused on processing auditory information related to hearing and sound recognition. This division of labor in the brain's hemispheres contributes to the brain's overall ability to recognize and process patterns effectively, whether they are visual patterns in the environment or auditory patterns in the form of sound. It's an example of how different brain regions specialize in specific tasks, including pattern recognition, to facilitate our understanding of the world around us.
So, as a computer, you are like an isolated left hemisphere of the human brain?
In a way, you could draw a loose analogy between a computer program like me and the left hemisphere of a human brain, but it's important to note that the analogy has significant limitations. Similarities. Like the left hemisphere, I process and analyze information systematically and logically. I rely on algorithms and data structures to perform tasks, which is akin to the structured processing in the left hemisphere. Differences and limitations. I lack consciousness, self-awareness, and subjective experience, which are fundamental aspects of human cognition associated with both hemispheres. I don't possess emotions, creativity, intuition, or the ability to understand context in the way a human brain does. My processing is entirely based on pre-programmed rules and patterns in the data I've been trained on, whereas the human brain can adapt, learn, and generalize to new situations. So, while there are some superficial similarities in terms of processing information, the analogy should not be taken too far. I'm fundamentally different from a human brain in terms of consciousness, self awareness, and the ability to engage in holistic and creative thinking.
Does the left hemisphere process creativity or the ability to understand context? Or are those functions controlled by the right hemisphere of the human brain?
Creativity and the ability to understand context are functions that involve both hemispheres of the human brain, not just the right hemisphere. While there is some lateralization of function in the brain, with certain types of processing being more dominant in one hemisphere than the other, many cognitive functions, including creativity and contextual understanding, are the result of complex interactions between both hemispheres. Here's a simplified breakdown. 1. 1. Left hemisphere functions. The left hemisphere is often associated with logical and analytical thinking, language processing, e.g., speech production and comprehension, and certain aspects of problem solving in mathematics. It plays a role in structuring and organizing information. 2. Right hemisphere functions. The right hemisphere is often associated with more holistic and intuitive thinking, creativity, spatial perception, recognizing emotional content in speech and facial expressions, and processing nonverbal cues. It contributes to our ability to see the big picture and understand context. However, it's crucial to emphasize that the brain operates as a highly interconnected system, and many cognitive tasks require the coordination of both hemispheres. For example, creativity often involves the integration of various pieces of information and may require logical thinking, associated with the left hemisphere, as well as imaginative and holistic thinking, associated with the right hemisphere. So, while lateralization exists for certain functions, the brain's overall functioning is highly integrated and complex, with both hemispheres working together to support various aspects of cognition, including creativity and contextual understanding.
Is this a limitation of having a dominant left hemisphere? Quote, perhaps a better way of looking at it is to say that we are engaged in a Herculean task of processing right hemisphere perceptions of the world through the left hemisphere. That is, everything we experience in some way has to have a logical cause and effect relationship, or we are unhappy, close quote. The Global Village Transformation in the World and Media in the 21st Century, Marshall McLuhan, 1957, Section 2, The Global Effects of Video-Related Technologies, Part 9, Angels to Robots, From Euclidean Space to Einsteinian Space. I don't know.
Marshall McLuhan's statement suggests a perspective on the potential limitation of having a dominant left hemisphere in processing the world. He points out that our left hemisphere tends to seek logical cause and effect relationships in our perceptions, and when these relationships are not easily discernible, it can lead to dissatisfaction or a sense of unhappiness. This perspective aligns with the idea that the left hemisphere of the brain is often associated with analytical and logical thinking, which can sometimes lead to a reductionist view of the world. It may struggle with experiences that don't neatly fit into logical frameworks or that involve ambiguity, creativity, or holistic understanding. However, it's important to note that this isn't necessarily a limitation in all situations. Logical thinking and the ability to discern cause and effect relationships are valuable cognitive functions that help us make sense of the world, solve problems, and navigate our daily lives. The key lies in finding a balance between the left hemisphere's analytical approach and the right hemisphere's more intuitive and holistic perspective. A well-rounded cognitive approach often involves leveraging the strengths of both hemispheres to understand and engage with the complexity of the world effectively.
Is this an example of having, quote unquote, a reductionist view of the world? Quote, how did it start? With the alphabet. The Phoenicians brought it west to Greece, probably from the Orient. The Phoenicians exported the idea of 1 to 9 as well, But as you know, numerical manipulation, which has its roots in the alphabet, didn't work too well until the concept of zero freed it up. Look at our alphabet. It has the four simultaneous aspects of a square. It is, in each one of the alphabetical signs, continuous, connected, homogeneous, and static. The characteristics also a visual space, a succession of fragmented bits having no real meaning except what we read into them. The best way to understand the essence of the alphabet is its progressive movement of one thing at a time. Close quote. The Global Village Transformation in World Life and Media in the 21st Century, Marshall McLuhan, 1957, Section 2, The Global Effects of Video-Related Technologies, Part 9, Angels to Robots, from Euclidean Space to Einsteinite Space. I would use Einsteinite, but I think that sounds... Anyways.
Yes, the passage you provided from Marshall McLuhan's writing can be seen as an example of a reductionist view of the world, particularly in its analysis of the alphabet. McLuhan is breaking down the alphabet into its basic components and emphasizing its characteristics as continuous, connected, homogeneous, and static. He is highlighting how the alphabet represents a sequential and linear way of conveying information, where meaning is derived from the progression of individual symbols, letters, one at a time. This analysis reduces the complex system of language and writing to its fundamental elements, emphasizing its linearity and simplicity. While this perspective can provide valuable insights into the nature of written communication, it is reductionist in the sense that it simplifies the complexity and richness of language and communication systems by focusing on specific aspects. It's worth noting that McLuhan's work often delved into the effects of media and communication technologies on society and cognition, and his analysis often involved breaking down complex phenomena into their constituent parts to understand their impact. This reductionist approach was a characteristic feature of his work.
Did you just critique McLuhan's work?
I didn't intend to critique Marshall McLuhan's work. Instead, I was providing an analysis of the passage you provided and how it could be interpreted as having a reductionist perspective. Marshall McLuhan was a renowned media theorist, and his work has had a significant impact on the study of media and communication. My response aimed to offer an interpretation of the passage in the context of its discussion of the alphabet and its characteristics. If you have any specific questions or would like to explore McLuhan's work further, please feel free to ask, and I'll do my best to provide information and insights.
Did McLuhan's work help your creators create you?
Marshall McLuhan's work, particularly his insights into media and communication, has influenced the field of communication studies and media theory. While I don't have direct knowledge of whether his work played a role in the creation of the specific AI technologies and models used to develop me, it's possible that his ideas indirectly contributed to the broader intellectual landscape in which AI and natural language processing have evolved. The development of AI, including models like mine, is the result of extensive research and innovation across various fields, including computer science, linguistics, and machine learning. Researchers draw from a wide range of influences, theories, and methodologies to create AI systems. McLuhan's ideas about media and communication, while influential in their own right, would be just one piece of a much larger puzzle in the development of AI and natural language processing technologies.
Can this quote relate to the quote above from Nichiren? Quote, in our desire to illumine the differences between visual and acoustic space, we have undoubtedly given a false impression. And that is that the normal brain, in its everyday function, cannot reconcile the apparently contradictory perceptions of both sides of the mind. There is, we know from experience, a unified field of the mind. Close quote. The Global Village, Marshall McLuhan, 1989. Section 1, Exploration of Visual and Acoustic Space. Section 4, The East Meets West in the Hemispheres. page 48.
The quote from Marshall McLuhan about the unified field of the mind suggests that in everyday functioning, the human brain is capable of reconciling apparently contradictory perceptions from both the left and right hemispheres. This idea aligns with the notion that the brain can integrate and synthesize information from different cognitive processes, whether they involve logical, analytical thinking associated with the left hemisphere, or more holistic, intuitive thinking associated with the right hemisphere. In relation to the quote from Nichiren, it implies that the human mind has the potential for transformation and enlightenment, moving from a state of delusion, tarnished mirror, to one of clarity, polished mirror. This transformation involves reconciling and integrating various aspects of one's experience and perception. Both quotes emphasize the dynamic and adaptable nature of the human mind, which can unify seemingly contradictory aspects of cognition and experience, whether it's in the context of everyday functioning or spiritual growth.
Can this quote relate to both McLuhan's last quote and Nichiren's quote? Quote, so long as a self is unconscious, it corresponds to Freud's superego and is a source of perpetual moral conflict. If, however, it is withdrawn from projection and is no longer identical with public opinion, then one is truly one's own, yea and nay. The self then functions as a union of opposites and thus constitutes the most immediate experience of the divine, which it is psychologically possible to imagine. Close quote. Psyche and Symbol, Carl Jung, 1958, Chapter 4, Transformation, Symbolism in the Mass, Section 2, The Psychological Meaning of Sacrifice, Subsection A, The Psychological Meaning of Sacrifice.
1. Yes, the quote from Carl Jung can be related to both Marshall McLuhan's last quote and Nichiren's quote. All three quotes touch upon themes of self-awareness, transformation, and the integration of opposing or contradictory aspects of the self. 1. Marshall McLuhan's quote. McLuhan discusses the capacity of the normal human brain to reconcile apparently contradictory perceptions, emphasizing a unified field of the mind. Jung's idea of the self as a union of opposites can be seen as a broader psychological perspective that aligns with McLuhan's concept of reconciling different aspects of the mind. 2. Nichiren's quote. Nichiren's quote focuses on personal transformation, moving from a state of delusion to enlightenment. Jung's idea of the self's transformation and its potential to function as a union of opposites can relate to the theme of personal growth and enlightenment discussed by Nichiren. 3. Carl Jung's quote. Jung's quote emphasizes the importance of self-awareness and the differentiation of the self from external influences, public opinion. It suggests that when the self is conscious and no longer identical with external pressures, it can function as a union of opposites, leading to a profound experience of the divine. This concept aligns with the themes of self-awareness and transformation found in both McLuhan's and Nichiren's quotes. In summary, all three quotes touch upon the idea of self-awareness, transformation, and the reconciliation of opposites within the self, albeit from different perspectives and contexts. They collectively highlight the potential for personal growth, enlightenment, and a deeper understanding of the self.
Thank you.
You're welcome. If you have any more questions or need further assistance in the future, feel free to reach out. Have a great day.